Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive global report from the OECD, and it asks basically the million-dollar question. How do we prepare our minds for a future where machines can do almost everything else? Because let's be real, absolutely no one wants their legacy to be getting outsmarted by a smart toaster, right? The whole landscape of work, learning, and cognitive development is shifting at breakneck speed. And the stakes for us, and for the next generation, they've literally never been higher.
14%. Just let that sink in for a second. According to OECD estimates, that's the chunk of jobs right now that are at risk of total, complete automation. Zero human involvement needed. And if that doesn't make you sit up a bit straighter, another 32% of jobs are likely to undergo massive changes as AI and robotics reshape the global economy. This isn't some distant sci-fi movie. This is happening right now. Tasks that are easy to teach, easy to test, and easy to perform. Yeah. They've become incredibly easy to digitize and automate.
And that brings us to a seriously powerful thought from Andreas Schleicher. He's the OECD Director for Education and Skills, and he really hit the nail on the head here. He says, tomorrow's schools need to develop first-class humans, not second-class robots. Think about that. In our hyper-digital age, human creativity and critical thinking aren't just trendy educational buzzwords anymore. They are, without a doubt, our ultimate survival skills. They're the deeply human traits that make us uniquely unautomatable. Section 1. Future-proofing our skills. Let's look at the rising demand. Top research from places like the World Economic Forum to McKinsey proves these aren't just nice-to-haves, they're absolutely essential tools for your own professional survival. To put this into perspective, back in 2018, critical thinking and creativity were already locked in as the third and fifth most demanded skills out there. Jump ahead just 1 year to 2019, and LinkedIn Learning found creativity was the number 2 most demanded skill globally. And looking down the road, McKinsey projects a massive spike in demand for creativity, a staggering 40% jump in the US by 2030. But hey, it's not just about corporate ladders. These are the exact same mental muscles we need to spot misinformation and actually engage meaningfully in a healthy, democratic, and civic life.
Section 2. Defining the unautomatable. Let's really define what these skills are.
We really need to dismantle the myth that these are just abstract buzzwords. They are very distinct, yet highly complementary skills. Creativity is all about producing work that is novel, original, and unexpected, sure, but, and this is key, it has to be appropriate to the task constraints. It's not just random, wacky novelty, it's purposeful. Critical thinking, on the flip side, is careful, goal-directed evaluation. It's focused on evaluating statements, deciding what to actually believe, and rigorously taking multiple perspectives. Put simply, creativity generates the novel, while critical thinking evaluates the valid. They work together like a giant puzzle. A super common misconception I hear all the time is that these skills only belong to, artists, designers, or philosophers. No way. In reality, they are deeply domain-specific, and they belong in every single subject. You can't just take a generic creativity class and expect to be creative at everything. To actually put these into practice, both creativity and critical thinking require concrete prior knowledge of a specific field, whether that's physics, mathematics, music, or history. You have to actually know the rules of a domain inside and out before you can creatively break them or critically evaluate them.
Section 3. The 4 core dimensions. This is the OECD framework.
What's brilliant here is how the OECD takes incredibly dense educational policy jargon and boils it down into a clean, actionable matrix of 4 highly active verbs: inquiring, imagining, doing, and reflecting. Now, these verbs act a bit differently depending on whether you're coming up with new ideas, which is our creativity side, or questioning existing ideas, which is our critical thinking side. But this framework is a massive leap forward. It finally gives us a shared global language for cognitive development.
Let's break these down. Think of inquiring as the detective way of thinking. It really forms the base of the entire framework because it demands serious curiosity and systematic questioning from the learner. It's all about slowing down, taking the time to truly understand a complex problem, feeling empathy, making deep connections across totally different disciplines, and crucially, doing the gritty, hard work of checking facts and questioning your own underlying assumptions.
Next up, we have imagining. This is the artist's way of thinking. It pushes the boundary, forcing us to stretch way beyond the obvious solutions. Honestly, it takes a lot of courage to play with radical or risky ideas, while at the same time comparing different alternative perspectives.
You can think of it as the engine of generation for creativity and the engine of perspective for critical thinking. Section 4, Theory in the Classroom. Let's look at applying the framework. Let's move to a concrete setting. This is a 20-lesson action research biology project that was developed for urban students in Michigan. The central driving question posed to these students was brilliantly simple: what controls my health? The entire lesson anchors high-level science to a fictional student named Monique, who was just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So rather than just reading from a textbook, it makes the science local, personal, and deeply relevant to the student's own world. Let's walk through exactly how these students investigate Monique's diabetes, mapping it right back to those 4 active verbs we talked about. In step 1, they inquire. They learn the hard facts about the disease and build their initial biological models on a shared driving question board. Then, in step 2, they imagine and do. They don't just sit and read, they actually perform simulated blood tests and physically use beads to model genetic risk factors. And finally, in step 3, they reflect. They revisit that initial board, critically assess their earlier assumptions about genetics versus the environment, and then, this is the best part, they actually design a real community action project based on their scientific findings. The crucial takeaway here is this: you absolutely do not have to choose between teaching hard facts and teaching soft skills. You can teach highly technical subjects, like biology and genetics, while simultaneously and intentionally equipping students with the tools to question information and design novel solutions. Critical thinking doesn't replace the standard curriculum, it supercharges it. Section 5. Empowering the educators, creating a global network. You really have to consider the massive scale of this OECD action research project. This wasn't just some isolated, one-off experiment in a wealthy school district. No, it involved 11 different countries across widely diverse cultures and educational systems. We're talking everywhere from Brazil to India, France to Thailand. It brought in around 800 teachers and over 20,000 primary and secondary students. That immense scale, resulting in nearly 100 peer-reviewed lesson plans, proves for sure that this is a globally tested, highly viable solution. And you know what? Beyond just the fantastic outcomes for the students, there was this profound, unexpected, systemic impact on the educators themselves. Looking at the data, 75% of principals in the intervention schools reported that this project led to unusual, highly positive collaboration among their teachers. It basically provided a completely new avenue for professional development, sparking a true global community of practice dedicated entirely to fostering these essential human skills. The world is changing rapidly. Machines are getting smarter by the second, and our minds absolutely must adapt. So I want to leave you with this. In your own life, whether you're a student, a working professional, a manager, or a parent, how are you actively fostering environments to safely inquire, imagine, do, and reflect? Cultivating these ultimate survival skills isn't just a job for tomorrow's schools. It's a lifelong necessity for every single one of us. Thanks so much for joining this explainer. Keep questioning, keep creating, and keep learning.